All right, next up, the list of knives from Black Friday was fairly long. I did put some time and effort into it, to my wife's chagrin. Just taking this off screen here to stay anonymous while I open it. If you're wondering where my Demco 8020.5 is, this is just a bug out mini I'm using right now for the unboxings. Took it to the, I was exercising today and I took it out of my pocket while I was exercising and left it in the car. And now that's where it is. I just don't feel like going down to the car right now to get it. So there are enough knives here to unbox some boxes. So let's get this sucker open. Hang on one sec. So anyways, there were a lot of great Black Friday deals I saw. This was one of them. And yeah, you know, I just saw quite a few around this company, GiantMouse, and I could not resist. And our friends at Knife Joy were running a little deal where they were giving a free, free pouch, whatever you want to call this little knife case, which I have plenty of knives that I could throw in there. So you get the knife case, you got the knife on sale, and here we are. Ace Riv. And this is what was kind of tripping me out, was in other models like the Biblio, and I maybe just am missing something here. The brass was way more expensive. Not like way more, but like notably more expensive. And yet on the Riv, it was like the same discounted price as the micarta. So I was like, well, let's see what this brass is about. Granted, this type of knife, I would normally err towards the size, more like a weight lean kind of mentality, but I was like, that looks really nice. And you know what? Let's use the f5.5, also designed by Jesper, to do the duties of opening it. And this one caught my eye. It's just a cool little knife, and I guess, you know, although there's some similarities in looks and stuff, they don't just do like a smaller version of the Grand or the Biblio or whatever. It is really like a separate knife. So let's see what it's all about. It's a sweet little design. If you like kind of a sheep's foot, and you can see that forward choil is just like very welcoming like that. That feels, for a little knife, that feels really good in hand. This is coming out of the mailbox and it's like in the 20-degree range right now. Maybe it's like in the low 30s today, but oh, I didn't notice. So that's interesting. It's a frame lock, which if you've watched the channel before, you know I'm not the biggest fan of, but it does look like a pretty good one. And if I'm going to have a frame lock on something where I'm going to do a reverse flick, that's a better format for a frame lock, because very naturally you're not going to be on the frame. Whereas if you're doing like, I mean, this does have a flipper, so I don't love a flipper frame lock, but this one feels like it's actually pretty easy to avoid the frame there. So that's good. And there you go. First deployment was super solid. Let's take a look at that. Oh my God, that is just super, super nice. Is this thing nicely centered? It's a tiny little knife. I'll throw out some size comparisons. That's kind of why I wanted to bring out the Bug Out Mini, because it felt like it's kind of playing in that realm. It's definitely small. Like the reverse flick is a little cramped, I'll say that. And actually part of what happens is you're going to get it and you kind of get into this. Like I wish this was a little more knocked down here, because you go to get in that tight little space. Maybe it's, where is it? You're kind of hitting into this little area. So this needs to be like really nicely knocked down, and that's a little sharp there. I don't know if that's what it is, but I'm feeling a little something. When I go to deploy it, my finger kind of hits. So you have to really be kind of intentional to go out and away, or you get up in there. Let's see how the rollout is on the thumb side. It looks like it's a little cramped to do it, but yeah, it's a little tough, and I can't quite get it out there. So I think that's not the best flipper I've ever felt. It's a very tiny flipper tab. It is jimped, but you almost don't even have a chance. It's almost like a push button as opposed to a, like you can light switch it a little bit, but it's more of a push button at the end of the day. Even if you are light switching it, you're kind of push buttoning it because it just disappears so quickly because it's small. So if you push button it, it works very well. It's a little hard to get your hands in place to do it. And this has now happened to me a couple times. When I'm trying to get at it, it's tempting or kind of natural to get my hand caught a little bit by the tip on the way out. So yeah, it's cramped, but it is a little sweetie. Like, it's a nice feeling knife. This is you got brass on this scale. I don't know what this is, if it's titanium. Let's see if it's steel. The clip is steel. Hardware is steel. But I think this is titanium. I'd have to go double check the website. I don't know, maybe it's something else, but it doesn't seem to be pulling the magnet there. Let's get you a little close up on this thing, because it is a little looker. Let's see if I can do that and get some good lighting on there for you. It is a little looker. I could see going with like more of a, I don't know if they do that on all their knives, do they? Yeah, I guess they consistently use a wire. And I do like a wire in the pocket, but I feel like stylistically this knife is kind of a looker. Like I'd probably go with something besides a wire, but it's good. It doesn't, I don't feel it in hand when I'm getting up into there. You do kind of feel it, and this is the thing I'm seeing about all of this guy's designs, like almost all of them. He puts like a kind of sharp edge right here, as opposed to rounding it off, which looks cool, but you get a little hot spot from it. So if you're behind, if you're here, you're definitely like 3-finger, but it feels tight. It's a tight 3-finger. Like you don't feel like you're gonna lose it if you get your thumb behind it. If you're like this, it doesn't feel great. But if you're behind here on the thumb, it feels pretty good. And then of course, you know, you're giving up a huge part of the blade, so you might as well use that choke up point, in which case draw cuts feel really nice on it, actually. Boy, I could really see myself carrying this one. This is a sweet little knife. It is a small cutting edge. I've never watched a review of this knife, so I'm learning this for the first time. It's just over a 2-inch cutting edge. I'd say 2 1/4. Just under 2 1/4. Maybe I'd call it even 2 1/8 on the cutting edge. Yeah, just between 2 1/8 and 2 1/4. The total length of this knife, you know, this isn't my thing on the channel. I'm not like, I don't always aspire to or do first review and, you know, all the stat education, but hey, we'll do it today. 5.75 tip to back, and the actual total blade length is about 2 1/2. Let's check out the weight. How's the action on the closing? I'm curious. I kind of wish it wasn't a flipper. Like, it doesn't really need to be. It is kind of nice that it is in one sense, but that flipper tab kind of hits you when you're trying to close it. So I wish it wasn't a flipper, because I think the action would be a little nicer. I can't quite get it far enough to do like a drop shot here. I'm trying to find if there's a spot I can put it so that my hand clears it a little better. If you do get your hand out of the way, it is a pretty good flipper action. But let's get to the weight here real quick. I also do love this, it's kind of like a satin with the, you can really see the grind lines there, which I like. It's a nice looking knife. Let me get it wiped off too, just because it's been outside and kind of cold and stuff. 3.49 ounces. I'm sorry, I'm just watching the kiddo here on the, oops, and dropping an AirPod, but watching the kiddo on the monitor because he's been a little sick this week. So trying to do my dad duties and knife YouTube at the same time. Sorry about the delay there. So about 3.5 ounces. What's, you know, it's about the same as like a Demco 80-20.5 or, you know, obviously like a lot heavier than a Bug Out Mini, but let's do some comparisons. So 3.5 ounces. So the brass definitely makes it a little heavier than if it was like a micarta. In fact, it's probably about the same weight as the f5.5. I bet this thing weighs about 3.5 ounces, even though this is definitely like a smaller knife. So if I were buying this and it was the same price, if the micarta was less expensive, I would get the micarta because I think that format of a knife kind of is best for a nice lightweight knife. You can see that with the micarta, this is actually a lighter knife, even though the f5.5 is much larger overall. So anyways, the weight's kind of nice though at the same time because you have a little knife, so it feels a little more quality. I'm just throwing it in the pocket real quick. Yeah, I mean, it's just so tiny, like even though it's a little heavier, you wouldn't really notice it. Let's do some size comparisons really quickly on this one. And I'm sure this thing's been reviewed to death, although I don't know for sure, but I imagine it has. So here's a Bug Out Mini, and we'll do, I'm going to do the Metal Complex, or the, what's his name, Nick Shabazz. They always do it this way. So we'll have a little fun today and go outside the normal format. So Bug Out Mini, Bug Out regular, you know, quite a bit. It's a little taller because of the shape and everything, and then, but it's quite a bit shorter. And then we'll do the classic comparison, the Ontario Rat 2, Ontario Rat 3. I realize I'm doing this now, oops, blade closed, so let's get it opened up and compared. And where I like to compare it is like right here to here, personally. I think that's the right spot to compare it from, because it's like how far back from the beginning of the blade does it go and how far forward does it go. So I'll bring the bug outs back out. So boom, and the little guy right there. It's pretty similar, but definitely smaller. This is a very compact knife. What do I have that's even in the side range? I really don't have anything. I mean, I guess I have a few. I don't have it in the room, but here's the tactile knife co. I mean, that really tells you this is everyone complains that this knife's so small. Now, if this was a little bigger this way, I feel like people would complain about that less, but you can see just how small it is even compared to what I consider a very small knife. It's definitely in like the, you know, like sub gentleman's knife category. It's a very small knife, and yet it's not much harder to deploy than knives that are much bigger than it, so it's compelling in that way. What else do I have? Oh, perfect. Wee Banter. A Baby Banter would probably be a really good comparison to this. I bet it's about the same, or maybe even a little smaller even than a Baby Banter. It's probably about the same as a Baby Banter, if I had to guess. Here is a Spyderco Para 3 to compare. Now you're getting into a little closer on the blade length, but obviously the handle size is much bigger on the Spyderco. And let's do some stuff that you might not see always compared to. QSP Penguin, quite a bit bigger. Again, putting it really in clear perspective of how small a knife this is. And we'll go with the Hinderer 3-inch slicer. It's a cool knife to compare to also. Not that a lot of people have it, so it doesn't make it a great knife to compare to. So now let's compare it to some of the knives that to me are very, very relevant to it. Just because of who designed it, what it's about, what it costs, and everything. And these cost less than 200 bucks. I think their MSRP is around 185 or something like that. Here is the f5.5 from Urban EDC. There are many different formats of this. Where's my, I have a G10 one around here somewhere. It's black on black, it's hard to see. But there's the black on black one. I wish I had my Biblio, but if you watched that video, I sent it back because the detent and lockup were just not right. And like, I can mess around with this stuff, but I don't really have time for it. And personally, I don't think a knife should come out of box not well tuned. That to me is not okay, especially since this Grand that I got in the same order was so different, like in terms of how it felt. I mean, it just felt like it was two different knife manufacturers, even though there's so many similarities. And yeah, that just didn't sit super well with me. So luckily, I think I got those from Blade HQ, and they're like one of the easiest to deal with when it comes to returns. They just shoot you a label and you get it done. So anyways, let's get this guy out here. This is one of the things, is that this, you saw how that popped out. The detent is so light on this Ace Grand, and then the detent was so hard and yet inconsistent on the Biblio. So anyways, Ace Grand is quite a bit bigger. I wish I had the Biblio here, but this f5.5 is a pretty good stand-in for the Biblio, if you know it. So, you know, this is kind of the order of these. This Ace line is kind of like, pretend that's a Biblio, Grand, Biblio, slash f5.5, and then Riv, sorry. So yeah, that's kind of where it fits in. Now what's cool is because of that forward choil being so big, and you can see how much more generous it is than the other two. These are both good and useful ones as well. You don't really need it on this knife. The handle's, you know, it begs to be held from here to here. This one's a little tight for me, where I feel like you're right up against that edge. I think I even saw a review of this where someone got bit a little bit by that, or maybe it was a Biblio review, I'm not sure. But this GiantMouse Riv has a really big forward choil there that is intended to be used, I think, significantly. And you can really put, like, you don't have to just put the tip of your finger in there. You can really get the full, you know, granted, my fingers are kind of skinny, so maybe if you have big fingers, that might not be as generous, but I think it would. And maybe you just put the tip of your finger in there if you had real big, meaty paws. Now, the one other thing I haven't mentioned here is the blade steel, and it actually slips my mind on which blade steel this is. So I'm gonna have to pull that up on the website real quick. Let's see if I can do that. But I think, let's see, the Biblio I got was like 20 CV, was it? No, I'm starting to forget. Being a bad reviewer today, guys. Let's see, bear with me a sec. Try not to mess up my entire desk while I'm doing this. Nothing like pulling up information about a knife on the fly. Whoops. Sorry, Knife Joy, I went to Knife Center by mistake. Should give Knife Joy a little love on this review here. I think we should. They're pretty cool. They were really cool on another return I did. I don't think they paid for shipping on that, if I recall correctly, but I think they're a bit of a smaller website if I had to guess. Put them a little love up here. Give them a little plug. So I'm just starting to talk to some of the websites and manufacturers about whether they want to just send me some knives for review. I love buying and selling knives, but I have to say that would make it a lot easier to do a higher volume. So we'll see if there are any takers, but there's some cool brands out there I'd love to work with, that some of which you've seen on here. If there was some way to work with Demco, I would love that. But I don't think they need to or would want to. At least not yet. I think I have probably one of the more Demco focused channels out there though, so we'll see. I will say they just did some amazing customer service on one of my customs that I needed like another pouch for. I won't talk about the details, but I needed another like pouch for it due to the buyer I got it from, and they just charged me for shipping, which was super cool. So shout out to John Demko on that one. That was really neat. Let's see, GiantMouse Riv. Boom, in the brass. Yeah, on sale. So it's 195 MSRP is showing on the website on sale right now. When I got it, Elmax, that's right. So this one's Elmax also, the Grand. But yeah, it's actually kind of weird. Now they have the micarta one and it's not even on sale. So they have the brass one for sale, but not the micarta one for sale. The micarta one shows 2.8 ounces. And what I didn't like about it was a stone wash finish. Actually, it was kind of like, if I'm gonna get this knife, shouldn't I do that? There is a all tie version, which would be super sweet versus this brass. This brass is cool. The all tie says 2.8 ounces also. Let me see if what the brass says, because maybe this one says 2.8 ounces too. So now I take it with a grain of salt, because this is not 2.8 ounces, this is 3.5 ounces. So if you're shopping for these, 3.5 ounces, not 2.8. So it says tie frame lock, ball bearing, brass presentation side, back spacer is tie, so that's really cool. You know, I was definitely getting a lot of tie there. Elmax with a satin finish. So you can see this one's more their stone washed finish, I believe. It's nice, but it's like nothing to write home about, I'd say. It's a nice finish. I like the Demko one a lot more. I like this acid edge finish a lot more, and I like this satin with the nice grooves, or, you know, call it grind marks, grind lines. That to me is a nicer looking finish personally. It's a fun little knife. I'd probably gravitate towards something this size. Like this already feels a little small, not like small, but like about as small as I'd go. This is definitely more my size carry. Let me pull out just some other Demko 80-20.5 to compare. So, you know, that kind of shows you, this is what I carry on a daily basis is already bigger than that knife. So the blade's not super long compared to it, but like this is pretty stumpy here already. And then you take that by comparison, and that's like my daily carry. So you see how much smaller this knife is. So there's some benefit to it for sure. I wonder if I can get this thing out with the thumb now that I've played around with that a little bit. I'm trying to think of what might be, like I find sometimes with the liner locks that you can do it with one hand and not the other. So maybe if you're going lefty, there we go. So now it's coming out. You just have to be careful. Like this is not easy to grab this knife and roll it out by thumb. That's what I'm gonna say. You can do it with 2 fingers, like really easily, kind of get it going, and then roll it out. I'm sure there's some easy way to do it, but I'm not finding it. Which, you know, if you have really small hands, it might be pretty intuitive. This is the thing about liner lock. You're pushing like away from the detent when you're on this side. I don't know if that's what it is or what, but you're also like very easily able to avoid putting any pressure on that because your thumbs, all the pressure is going on this solid side. So it rolls out really nicely with the left. And I imagine probably finger flicks really well with the left. I don't do this much though, so let's try and avoid catastrophe here. Probably a terrible idea to do live on the channel, but not easy to finger flick it with the left, I'll say that, because there are some knives that I do finger flick with the left. I don't do it a lot, but I wouldn't call it easy. So yeah, it's cool. It's part of this family. Jesper, how do you pronounce it? Vohanus. I gotta look that up. It's doing some really cool work. I think this kind of style is very appealing to people right now. And I think this, you know, for someone that's looking for like what I'll call like a micro or like a subcompact even, you know, I think it's a pretty nice knife. Let's see if I can get some real quick. Our story on GiantMouse. Formed over drinks, 2015, Danish designers, knife maker Jens Anzo and Jesper Vonet. They call him Vox, I guess. Call him Vox. That's easier for me too. Along with the American entrepreneur friend Jim Worth, decided that they could build a better mousetrap, so to speak. A knife brand that can provide amazing knife designs with the highest possible production quality at a fair price, while remaining closely involved with the community of customers. I like that. Now, there are a lot of you that don't want a knife made in China, and I'm pretty sure this is just another knife made in China, but designed in the US / and I don't know if Vox and Anzo live in Denmark, or if they're just Danish living in the US or whatever, but they're doing good work here, and I feel like the value is really nice. You're getting a very high quality knife, titanium frame lock with brass. It's about $220 MSRP if you get a full tie, $195 MSRP for this brass version. Right now it's on sale on Knife Joy for $156. And Knife Joy for over, I don't know what this is, over $40 will send free shipping. Free shipping over 40 bucks. That's super cool. So worth a look. Not for everyone, I'd say. You have to be looking for this, but it's a usable knife despite its size. It's definitely very small, but like I feel like it's functionally small. So it's a neat one. I'm gonna put some thoughts into where this one fits in, but it's a really, really nice looking knife for sure. Do one level close up and then we'll send you on your way here. Sorry, got a little something on here. Let me get it cleaned off. And sorry if you're hearing the 3-year-old cough in the background. I'm sure that's a bit unpleasant during your knife review, but he takes priorities to knives by a long shot. That's a really nice looking knife. And it looks like it's a hollow grind. Is it a flat or a hollow? What are these? I think these are flat ground. I don't know if it says on here. Da-da-da, shop, ace line. This is one of my slower videos, so sorry for that, but I wonder if it says on here. Sonoma. Da-da-da. Where's my Riv? They also have this thing called a nibbler that's even smaller than this. I can't personally go smaller than this. This is as small as I go. I can't find the where's the Riv? Riv. All right. Riv brass. Sold out on the website, by the way. Does it say on here the grind? It doesn't, I don't think it does. Plate steel handle, backspacer, clip, pivot, size. It's probably a flat grind. I think it's a flat grind. It just kind of looks like a hollow grind in here. But it's probably a flat grind. It's hard to tell. I think it's a flat grind. Yeah, it's a little sweetie. It's a little sweetie. I don't know what more to say than that. Wish it wasn't a frame lock. That's all I can really say. Is the micarta one a frame lock? Green canvas micarta. It's also a frame lock. So this whole knife is really a different knife than the Biblio. It's really not the same knife at all. It has similar design elements, but it's really a fully different knife. Yeah, it's cool. I don't know what more to say. 30 minutes of rambling. Hope you hung in there, or if not, I hope you have a good night of sleep because I put you right to bed. Thanks for stopping by. Please like, subscribe, and have a good one. Take care. I'll see you on the next one.